Hello. I'm back sooner than what I thought. I want to do a part 2 to this thing. There's so many elements to this abuse thing, domestic violence, so I want to do a part 2. Let me go with this music. It seems awfully loud. Please make sure you hit that like button, Bush babies. Hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. You don't have to come down, but I greatly appreciate your support. Some people just don't like to drop down. If you like the commentary, please don't hesitate to share. I'm going to get some stuff. We're going to do part 2. We're going to do emotional domestic violence. People just think it's one form. There's many forms, as I mentioned last night. So we're going to go ahead and do emotional. I'm going to wait maybe for some people to come in, and then we'll get started. Who's here, the message is for them, and who's not here, and they catch the replay, perhaps the message will be for them as well. But we're going to get this thing started soon. I'm excited to be back down here. I'll come on camera in a minute. So. Hey, Polo, thanks for joining me. Polo. We'll wait for some more people to come in. We're going to still continue on with this domestic violence, but we want to do emotional domestic violence today. So, thank you for joining me. If you haven't, please hit that like button. That's very important to me, that you hit the like button. So I want to change to this right quick because I want to send out a couple of thank yous. I did it and I posted it on my community wall, but I just want to personally say thank you to Queen Diva, my moderator, and my good best sister, Andrea, Mama Bear, my moderator. Peace, love. She's a commentary. If she's a content creator, if you haven't subscribed to her, please run over there and subscribe to her. She has great conversation, nice vibes over there. The Chocolate Bay, thank you so much for sharing me out. Come and get this commentary. Another content creator, got great content. Please, if you can, go check her out as well. Official D Spot, another content creator. If you're not subscribed to him, please go check him out. Great commentary. He's doing mukbang now. So let's, support him on his mukbang. T. Trisha, thank you so much for sharing me out. Bush Babies, thank you. Thank you for being here and chat engages. I really appreciate you. And Duchess, my bootleg co-host, and all the Cash App blessings that I received. Thank you very much. If I've forgotten anyone, please charge it to my head and not my heart. Let me get to these comments. I'm going to come on camera. Hey, Miss Cruz, BB Nice. Hello, Queen. How are you? Okay, so let's me get started on it. So I wanted to continue on because it was so near and dear to me about domestic violence. Let me put this up right quick. Let me change this, and then I'll come on camera. Domestic violence is, really near and dear to me, and I think we should talk about it more. So I'm going to dedicate this week to domestic violence because it's broad. It's really broad. Yesterday, I just touched on the physical and some of the emotional aspects of it. I gave a little background story about my sister, my best friend, and then I also gave some commentary about myself. Thank you for those who shared this video out as well. Really BTV and peace, love. Thank you so much, Queens. Really BTV, she does a lot of reviews, and so she's good. She's a good content creator. But it was so near and dear to my heart, I thought that maybe I should just expound on the emotional abuse, because sometimes we have red flags and we don't see them. And because we don't see them, we don't realize that they are really red flags and warnings to us about some form of abuse. And one is emotional. And I read this quote today, and I somewhat agree with it, but I don't agree with it. You know how that goes. You agree with some of it. And this was the quote. It said, emotional abuse is just as bad as physical abuse or worse. Now, I believe that to a certain degree. You can heal broken bones, you can't heal a broken mind. And that's deep. That's deep because I think both of them, to me, equal. I don't think one is worse than the other, but I kind of related to what they were saying because someone could slap you, right? Now, in my sister's case, he hit her so much upside her head, he gave her traumatic brain injury. But in other cases, a slap, a push, a shove, some people, they could bounce back from the physical part of it, but the emotional part, you really have to get counseling and therapy. You have to build up your self-esteem, your confidence, because you are broken. An abuser makes sure they break you down to almost nothing. And they make you feel like you're nothing, you're not worthy. You'll never be worthy of anyone else's love. And so mentally, you're not there. When you're not there mentally, it will destroy you physically. Spiritually, it will just crush you. So I do see that being everlasting. Even things that were said to me before, it still carries weight in my mind. And maybe sometime I figure, or perhaps that's why I'm defensive. A lot of time I'm very defensive when people say defensive, I'm trying to say, when people say certain things to me, probably because I was mentally beaten down. So I always have my guard up, or I find myself defending myself. If someone questions my intelligence, I kind of get offended because I've heard so many times that I wasn't nothing, I was dumb, I wouldn't be nothing, you stupid bee, you'll never have nothing, you'll never. Those words beat me down so bad that I began to believe those things. And I talked about yesterday how I had an exit plan. Everyone doesn't have an exit plan, you know, but when you see these things and you're in the midst of this relationship and you want it to be over, you need to start making a exit plan. And the end of the week, I will just go over an exit plan on how to get out of abusive situations. Everybody can't be like me. Some people never make it out. Some people die at the hands of their abusers because they can't get out. And when someone beats you down mentally like that, it's hard for you to even move, to even think, because someone has broken you down to nothing, basically nothing. So you can't think about an escape plan, You can't plan. You can't prepare to do anything different. You are somewhat trapped. And so I wanted to talk about a couple of things today in the emotional abuse. I wanted to do 7 signs, and these are things you need to look for. But if you in an abusive relationship, please get help. There's help 24/7 from the domestic violence hotlines. I have it listed in my description. Call someone, tell someone if you have to sneak and do it. And then we're going to get into that too, how isolation happens so you don't have anyone that you can contact or talk to, because the isolation part of abuse happens. But the number one is they overly criticize you. They make you feel like you can't do anything right. No matter what you do is never going to be right for the abuser. You'll never do anything right. You could prepare perfect dinner, your spouse's or your partner's favorite meal, and something will be wrong with that. They're never satisfied. You're never good enough for them. So they overly criticize you because that's how they gain power over you. As they break you down the steps to, they start gaining power over. So you start thinking nothing you do is ever enough or never is good enough for them, or perhaps you think for anyone else. So you stay stuck in that situation, right? They then they'll start yelling and cussing at you. They'll start calling you names, all type of names. I told you got called B several times, constantly. You B, you no good, you ain't gonna do this, nobody's gonna take you and your 3 kids, you this, you that. And so I was constantly beat down with that word. You don't have no education, you can't make no money, you can't do this, you can't do. It was a constant beat down. And that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. And like I said, I started thinking those things. So that was another reason why I just stayed, because I was like, well, where am I going to go with my 3 kids? I don't have anything. I'm not educated. You know, I really didn't want to burden anyone else, with me and my 3 children. So I stayed in the situation for a little longer, right? They intentionally humiliate you. Humiliation is a very that's one of their tactics they use. They humiliate you. They humiliate you in front of people. You know, they continue to do that. They try to embarrass you. They say things like in front of your family and friends, and they embarrass you. But because you're used to them doing that, and that's what they do, and it's sort of a norm with you, see, that's part of the isolation. So what they do is they try to get you away from your family so they can humiliate you in private, because knowing if they do it in public, that someone will see it and say something to you. So they normally do it in private, sometime in public. When it's out of hand and they get so used to trying to humiliate you and embarrass you, they'll just do it in public. They have no filter. They continue to do it. And emotional abuse is so much to deal with. You wondering how people looking at you. You're trying to cover up for their behavior, to make it not seem like you're being abused, knowing you are being abused, but you'll try to cover it up for the person you're in a relationship with, the abuser. You'll make excuses for them, and that's pretty bad. But I do, I often hear people, we always see red flags, you guys. We always see red flags in any relationship. Even if it's a friendship, you'll see red flags. You just tend to ignore red flags because you want a relationship with that person. If you're already in a relationship with that person, you want the relationship to continue. So you ignore red flags. But that's number 2. Number 3 is they purposely limit you. They limit you, and like I said, they isolate you so no one can see what they're doing to you. So even if it's a physical, abuse, no one will ever see it if you don't go out the house. They distance you from your family. They won't allow you to have new friends. They want to keep you confined in the house so no one sees your abuse. A lot of times you don't have access to certain things. Like, we use our cell phone freely. They may not have access to a cell phone because they limited them to make sure they have that control and power over them. So they continue to make sure they keep taking away things where they can socialize with other people because they don't want people to see them abusing you. 9 times out of 10, you can look at a person, say for instance, and just try to imagine this, we're at a family gathering, right? And okay, we at a family gathering, right? And everybody's laughing and happy, they drinking, and you're sitting in the corner looking sad. Someone will notice that. Someone will notice something is not right with you. And they may question you because why aren't you joining in the festivities? Because you're broken. And plus you have been taught, and you have been taught not to really socialize with people because that your abuser don't want you to ever mention that to someone. They don't want to take that risk and that chance. So you stay tucked away in the corner perhaps, but people will notice that and they'll start questioning that. So they make sure they try to isolate you. Let me keep her away from everybody because I don't want to risk the chance that she may say something or do something, or they may see something. They may see the bruise on the side of my face. They may see the bruise on my arm, you know. I take my coat off and you may see bruises on me. So they want to make sure they keep us away from people. So they purposely do that, you know. And so they gain more power over you by doing things like that. They gain more power over you because now they are in control of your every move normally. You know, they have that control. And if you step out of line, they have signs and they will say and do different things to put you back in line because they have that control over you. And that's the sad thing about it. Because, like I said, everybody can't escape it. You know, I just thought that I would do something. I said, no, I can't live like this. I have to do something. And because I worked, I saved my paycheck because my husband provided all, he paid for all. So I saved my paycheck. And so I was able to save money to travel elsewhere, to get out of my relationship. So it was easier for me, but it's not easy for everyone. It's hard to get out of an abusive relationship. And you know, is what they call a honeymoon period. It's like cycles, you know, and then you get to the honeymoon period and everything is okay because some of the abuse have stopped. So you know, you lovey-dovey, you huggy, you kissing, you having sex, you doing all that, things are going good, is the honeymoon period. So you forget about the abuse you just suffered a couple of days ago. It's just like a cycle. It's a cycle that goes around and you're stuck in that cycle. And like I said, everybody can't escape. So it's not easy for me. It is easy for me to sit here and say, create an exit plan, but it is not that easy for some people. And that's just a fact. So it's not that easy. Verbal threats. You know, they always make the verbal threats. If you leave me, I'll do this. You know, if you tell somebody I'll do this, or you won't have that. Remember, I take care of you. So if you say anything, don't you'll walk out here, you won't have nothing. You'll be homeless. You'll be on the streets. You know, this and that. They always make verbal threats to you to continue to have that control over you. And it's easy because, like I said, I was wondering to myself, where am I going with my 3 children? You know, who's going to take me and my 3 children in? And then how am I going to provide for them when I have all the things that we need right here? I might as well just stay here. And then I said, I just can't stay here because danger is lurking. Something bad is going to happen. I feel it. I hear my children talk to me. And so I had to boogie, you know, but it's not always easy. Number 5, I think number 5, they reject you. They will physically distance themselves from you. They'll stop having relationships with you, communicating with you in public. They won't engage with you. They like just put you in the back, you know, like they don't notice you. So that's what they'll do. They'll start rejecting you when things don't go their way. And that's pretty sad. No one wants to feel rejected. And you know, the craziest thing, even dealing with YouTube, you know, everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants attention, good attention. But some people take any kind of attention, good or bad. But you just think about it. That's just the human in us. We want affection, we want attention, we want to be noticed, we want to be loved, you know, and so do abuse, you know, people, so do victims. They want attention. And so when you do that to them and you ignore them, then it's like a form of punishment to them. And you make them feel some kind of way. They always want to make you feel like you're not worthy of anything, though. So that's what they do. They do that too. I noticed that. Some of these things you will notice. You will really notice. And when you step back and think about, especially if you've been in that type of situation, you would notice it even more now. I notice even more now because I do the research on it. I study and I've been in a situation that I know these signs well, you know. So they gaslight you a lot. They exploit you and gaslight you. Hey, Clyde, they will gaslight you and exploit you a lot. They always make you feel like, to a certain degree, when anything happens, they run to you and you have to solve it. And if you're not able to solve whatever's going on, then again, They'll start calling you names, they'll start breaking you down, and they'll start the abusive cycle. But they always think that they could run to you. And like I said, they're big gaslighters. They do that quite a bit. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else besides me here, is not a lot of people here, but if you've been in an abusive relationship, how did you deal with it and how did you get out of it? I'm interested to talk to some people, but like I said, sometimes it's pretty difficult to come down here and get people to be transparent and open up because they are afraid some of the backlash they may get. But I'm interested really to find out some people who was in an abusive relationship and they left the relationship and how they got out. What red flags did they see? What was happening. I remember I did that story on Lolo. I haven't seen Lolo in a long, long time. I think she left YouTube, and I don't know if you all was here with me when I did the domestic violence thing with Lori, also known as Lolo. Like I said, I think she left months ago. I haven't seen her in a long time, but she was in a relationship, and she was in a physical and emotional uh, violent relationship, and she left, but it almost cost her and her child's life before she left. So, but I'm interested in really trying to find a group of people. If you guys know a group of people or you know someone who's been in a relationship, I like to talk to them about how they recognized they was in an abusive relationship and how they got out, if they got out, or if they're still in it. Like I said, 24 hours domestic violence hotline, call it. These people will help you find shelters and everything away from your abusers. So don't hesitate to call. But I said that thing nagged me so much about my sister. And then I thought about my own situation. I really wanted to talk about the emotional abuse aspect of it because it's deep. People will break you down. People will make you feel like you're not worth nothing. I felt like, damn, maybe I am stupid. Nobody gonna want me. I felt really, really bad, broken down. And I went into like a depressed state until I said, to hell with this. I'm about to do something different. But everybody, like I said, can't do that. So they try to control you. Yeah, they micromanage everything you do so they can have full control over you. That's number 7. They micromanage your whole life. You know, when you could talk to somebody, who you could talk to, when you could go somewhere, what time you can go. And they stay on top of you. They make sure they very seldom let you out of their sight because they want to have that much control over you because they're afraid that you're going to say something to someone about the abuse that you are suffering at that person's hand. So they so afraid you're gonna do that. So they make sure they micromanage you and stay on top of you. You normally can't go to the store by yourself. You can't talk on the phone in an area where the abuser is not around. They don't give you access to a lot of things to make sure they keep that full control over you. And that's pretty sad. It wasn't to that extent with me, but with some people it's to that extent, but not with me. I had everything. But again, I was still being, verbally abused all the time. And it started, like I said, it starts sometime when you're a kid, when your parents call you dumb, stupid, you're a liar, and you ain't gonna be shit. You just like your father, especially if the relationship between the mother and the father is sour. They tend to say stuff like that. You gonna be like your father, he ain't shit, you ain't nothing. You come home with a bad grade. I know you stupid. You can't even sit there and learn. You just a loser. All those type of names. That's emotional abuse. That's emotional abuse. And it starts a lot of times at a young age. It doesn't start at an adult age. It starts at a younger age and it goes into adulthood. Remember, I told you about my sister? She had been abused at a young age, by her foster parents. Then it just went into her in adulthood. And it's a PTSD type of thing. Yeah, it's a PTSD type of thing. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder. You'll get that from abuse, emotional abuse. So I don't know. Now I wonder how did she look at love? You know, we look at love different ways. How did she look at love? Did she look at love by somebody maybe abusing her and she thought that they loved her? I don't know. That was just a question popped in my head. Let me read this. The emotional abuse is very covert. It takes a keen eye and an outside party to validate the viewer's feelings. Exactly. I've been a friend to someone and assured them they weren't imagining things. Exactly. And that's why, you see how you said you was a friend, Clyde? That's why they don't want you around people. Because if you start talking to someone, then you will know their secret. Because it's a secret. You're being abused and it's a secret. You know, I never went out, you know, back in the day, you know, I didn't go out and tell everybody that, you know, he was cussing at me and cussing at my kids and, you know, call me all these names and doing. I always went out and act like we had the perfect family, that everything was all right, you know, and because I had so many materialistic things, you wouldn't have never known because I, you know, I never wore it, you know, on my face or anything. You never saw it, but I knew behind doors that I was miserable and I was sick of living like that. But I always played the role like everything was good, you know, because like I said, I had everything that I wanted, but I didn't have real love, you know. So yeah, and so I never really said anything to anybody. Like I said, people would say, you know, people I've heard people say to me when me and my husband did split, they said, I would have never thought that you and him would have broken. Y'all were the best couple. I said, yeah. Oh yeah. You guys just didn't see what was happening behind the scenes. But then it started getting so bad that it started happening in public. Hmm. And I'll tell you what, hey, Faye, I'll tell you another thing too. Alcohol and drug induce abusive behavior. It induces abusive behavior. So when we would go out and party and drink and something would happen, then you would have a whole big cussorama. You know, you cussing me, I'm cussing you, and it just. I noticed every time we go into that state of being party, you know, partying, drinking, and carrying on and stuff. You know, we used to have quite a few parties and stuff like that. But I noticed that it would get worse. It would get worse because you never know at that point what would trigger someone. It's always a trigger for someone. You know, even talking about this yesterday and today, it could be very triggering for people, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you could say things and it just would trigger somebody to do certain things, especially abusers like that. So I don't know too much. Oh, so I just really wanted to come and talk about that. And I like to see if anyone would like to share a story. It don't even have to be about you. I see Clyde's here telling me about her friend. So Clyde, did your friend get out of the relationship or are they still in the relationship? She thought she was imagining things, yeah. Did your friend Is your friend still in the relationship, Clyde? I want to know if she's still because like I said, it's not easy to leave. And especially for some, and you know the bad thing, I want to talk about this right quick because someone wrote a long comment. Thank you, Sean, for your long comment in reference to the financial and economic aspect of it. I didn't touch on that like that. I just said that I thought because my husband had carried such a financial load that he became resentment, you know, he resented us. That's what I was talking about, but not to the other financial thing. We'll cover that Friday, the financial and economic aspect of domestic violence, because there's a portion of that too. Hey, Queen Diva, Queen is in the house. So there's another portion to that, the financial and the economic abuse, domestic abuse, you know, and I said that to say this. So I didn't mean it like because of him working so hard and providing for us that was the financial and economic abuse portion of it. I didn't mean it like that. I just tied it in the same when I was talking. You guys know how I rattle on. Sometimes I just be rattling because I think about one thing and my mind is racing, and so I jumped to that. So let's see, Clyde, you said she's still in the I wonder, is a person an abuser and use drugs an excuse to abuse, or does drugs cause a person to abuse as a side effect? It can, because it can evoke violent behavior. Drugs and alcohol is toxic to the body, and it can evoke, yes, violent behavior. Now, that doesn't mean that'll make you an abuser. It just evoked violent behavior if you're already an abuser. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that. Because I remember when I used to drink, I told you I had most of my fights in my adult years. I didn't fight much as a child, but I had a lot of fights in my adult years. And that's because I was drinking. I noticed it was time that I was drinking. I was short fused. You would say something to me, and my reaction would to get into a physical altercation with you. Now that was for me. Now I wouldn't do that, but I don't drink like that. But now I wouldn't do that because I know how to control my temper. But maybe because of what I was experiencing, it caused me to take it out on someone else. But yes, I believe drugs and alcohol induces violent behavior. I do, especially if a person already an abuser. So yes, I do believe that. I'm going to lean towards that. Thanks, Queen Diva. There's my sissy. Hey, Vegas girl, thanks for dropping in. Thank you. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed to my channel. So yeah, I'm wondering. So Clyde, did your friend? Oh, it's a he. Yes. Okay, it's a he and their children are away from her. They divorced. Check this out. People sleep on that, Clyde. I'm glad you said that, because women are abusers as well. I know some women that will kick a man's behind and abuse their husband. Not just men abusing women, but women abuse men as well. Yes, they do. Thanks for putting that in there, class, so I can divert my attention to that, because we have women abusers as well. You have some real mellow, calm, passive men, and you have women that will take their kindness for weakness, and they become sometimes violent towards their mate. Hey, Trina B, thanks for joining me. Thank you. Hey, Melissa, what's going on, baby? How are you? Hey, Houston Bread, what's going on? I loved your topic this morning. Houston Bread, you're who? Houston Bread is another content creator who comes on in the morning. Houston Bread has a awesome live. Her lives is more about you, the person you are, right? I think she has a great live. She talk about you, your expectations of people, who you are, loving yourself. She does the love thing as well. Houston Bread has some thought-provoking lives in the morning. It makes you want to think about how you live and who you are, why you are who you are, and is it working for you? Yeah, I like her lives. Let's see. Let me get this one. I don't think either of us, me or my husband, knew that we were in an emotionally abusive relationship. I was raised to be a victim and he was raised to be an abuser. Wow, that's an excellent point, because sometimes, Faye, you don't know. You really don't know. Like maybe perhaps you don't look at a man calling you. That's why I have a hard time when people call me a bitch. I have a real hard. To me, that's a fighting word. We can't even play like that, because I've been called one so much in a negative way. Now, remember, it has a negative connotation to me, for me. But for some people, it's like, hey, bitch, girl, that bitch wearing that is no big deal. But it's a fighting word for me, because perhaps I've been called it so much that I can't even see it being just a, hey, girl, no, it will always have a negative connotation when addressing me as a bitch. Call me a bitch. Yeah, it is a fighting word for me, But like I said, I've learned to control myself a lot. I learned to control myself a lot. And you know what? This may sound crazy to you all, but every anything I've gone through in life, any hard times, any abuse or whatever you want to call, I thank God for. I thank God for it because it made me the woman that I am today. And I'm pretty strong. And my mind is sharp, and I take control over my life in its entirety. No one could come and tell me nothing about me. You can't break me down. I'm pretty strong. I don't allow people to enter my space to control me in no form or fashion. And it's pretty sad for some victims that's in the financial part of it, in the economical part of the abuse, because some of those women don't, or women or men, they don't work. So they don't have finances. So they can't save money to make an exit plan. Like I said, I work, but a lot of times that's the form of abuse we go talk about Friday, the financial and the economic abuse, holding money, holding money from someone. But I don't want to branch off into that, but I just want you to know that anything has happened to me, I thank God for, because I'm a strong woman and I refuse to lose. And I've been through some shit. I still go through some stuff, but I can't be broken. In my mind, that's how strong my mind is. You can't break me. You may set me back, but you'll never be able to break me. That's why I don't get into a lot of, back and forth with people, because I don't give them that control, because I'm that strong that you can't control. It's nothing you could tell me about me that would make me feel any kind of way. I can't be ashamed. I can't be humiliated. You could bring up a thousand things that happened in my past. You'll never break or humiliate me, because that's the life that I experienced. And I'm a stronger person from it. And so I thank God for every knock and bruise, bumps and lumps. And I'm not talking about physically, but in life. Every setback, I thank God for that. I really do, because that made me a strong woman. I always tell people I am built for tough. I know. Y'all better not say Ford is a raggedy car. I'm built for it tough. Hey, Tita, what's going on, beautiful? Hey, good to see you, TT. But yeah, let me read this comment. She knew she could attack him and use his military career as a dangling carrot. He couldn't retaliate for the fear of losing his job, and came from a broken home and wanted to keep his family together. People really do. People, for so many reasons, people they hang on to an abusive relationship. And that was one we kind of talked about last night, Clyde, because I thought I was living well. I thought we were doing good. I had everything I wanted: big house, nice cars, money in the bank, dressed nice. My kids had everything. We didn't want for nothing. Not one deep freezer, not two, but three. We had it, lived nice. So I stayed there because I wanted that lifestyle. I wanted that lifestyle. And I suffered that abuse because I enjoyed that lifestyle. And I thought I was doing what was best. But at the end of the day, it wasn't best. It just wasn't best, And then another thing, too, when it comes to the military, if you report that, then you can end that person's career. The military don't play that crap. So even if, perhaps you would have said something and they in the military and you would have reported it to their commander, you risk them losing everything. You risk them, getting kicked out of the military. So you don't want to tell on them when you're in the military. You don't want to tell on them because it will blow their career. And my husband did retire out of the military, so he had put 20-some years in it. But still, if you would have went and said something, then I could have cost them those 20 years, and they would have put him out. So, but Miss Teav here, and you looking beautiful. Thank you. I'm so glad to see you. Hey, Lady K. So, when you're in an abusive relationship, especially emotionally, sometimes you may not realize that, because, you probably in the past, like I said, maybe in your younger years, you've been around abuse. And so it doesn't really affect you that way. So you continue to engage in that relationship because you're used to it. Oh, well, I heard my mom call my dad this. I heard my sister call my this. So, I heard that. So I'm used to it. So it's no big deal. But it is a big deal. It is a big deal. It's a big, big deal when someone tried to break you down, when someone tried to strip you of everything emotionally. It drains you. You can't operate without your mind being healthy. I couldn't operate and move. I couldn't think, because I was beaten down mentally. So eventually my body will follow. My body will start breaking down. Had not, you escaped that, entanglement. If you didn't escape, eventually your body will break down. And then you give up. You get in a place that you're so embarrassed, you don't want to tell anyone what's really going on. And I'm not talking about just me, I'm talking about abuse victims, right? That they don't want to tell, that they just sit in the sunken place. They can't get out because they don't want anyone to know their secret. And another thing, we are good for telling people, girl, I told you so. I told you so. People don't want to hear I told you so. I told you that nigga wasn't no good, and now he over there beating up. That's what your ass deserved. You over there with him. When we told you that he was no good, I knew from the start that nigga wasn't. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear you say to them, I know you in this situation. What can I do to help you out of that abusive situation? They don't want to hear, I told you he wasn't no good, but girl, you was dying to marry him. Then you had them kids by him. Now you got them kids and you out there by. Nobody wants to hear that. So they be afraid to, talk to other people. Let me see. Growing up around abuse can easily become the norm if we don't try hard to break cycles. Exactly, Lady K. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Sometimes it's just a norm. So you don't even realize you being abused. Like I told you, my sister to have went through that. So maybe she didn't even realize that it was abuse. Even when I would talk to her about abuse, she just didn't see it that way. I don't know, what could you love about somebody beating you upside your head, calling you those names, humiliating you, embarrassing you? What can you possibly love? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. Only she could say. I couldn't understand how she wanted to stay with him. When we was trying to get her away from him, she wanted to stay with him. I don't understand it. Because again, if you've been used to that all your life, perhaps you don't even view it as being abusive. So I don't know. I think they just talking to themselves in the chat. But if you know someone, if you come across anyone within this week, within this month, because it's the month, and they have a story they want to share, please ask them to share their story with me. And we could do a live, even if they don't come on camera, even if you in the clouds or you down here and you have a story of being a victim, you can share with us, and you could just use an avatar. If you don't want to show your face, no big deal. You can use an avatar. But I know the more that we talk about it and the more a person know that they're not alone, it may become a little easier for them to escape their situation. Sometimes you just think you by yourself, but no, there's many people out there who's in abusive relationships. Thank you, baby. You just full of compliments, my TT. Thank you. It is mellow and peaceful. Our past makes us who we are. Every scar and every tear makes us forward tough. To every survivor, I'm honored to be amongst you. Thank you so much, Faye. It is. And it sounds crazy, but it made me the person I am today. I just don't give up. Now, I'm like everybody. When I hit some, bump and bruises in the road, a setback to make me feel some kind of way. But to break me, nah, nobody could do that. Nah. Okay. You want to come up to the altar? Listen, you could come up to the altars. Not the altar, girl. Don't be calling it the altar. I'm going to kick your butt, JD. Hello, J Dunn. Hey, TT, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it greatly. Hold on. JD want to come up to the altar. And I want to say this too, because I don't want us to sit in here. Now, we have a certain decorum over here. Everyone is respected over here. The host, including the panelists, including the chat. So, let's make sure we keep that in mind. And know this too. Domestic abuse doesn't happen just between man and woman, parents and children. It could be partners of the same sex. They go through. In fact, I did a little research today and forgot to write it down. But do you know domestic violence is higher in homosexual relationships versus heterosexual? I sure did it. And man on man relationships. Hold on. Let me put this up. Hold on. I want to thank these people. So take a minute to look at these people. I did a special thank. That's you, JD?
Yeah, it's me.
All right. Be on your best behavior, Punky.
Girl, why would you think that I would do this over here when I could do it on my channel?
I respect you, baby. You wouldn't. That's my JD. Hello, JD.
Hey, Mz.Teavalocity. Look here.
Beautiful.
Hey, I just clicked over here, but I saw what you did yesterday. I think it was yesterday about your sister.
I did.
I was up in here during that. And then I saw you had this one about about people saying emotional things.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you, because you are a little bit more you have more wisdom than I do. What is it when people just leave you stranded? Because that's not physical, but that's not emotional either.
Economical? Could it be economical? No. When you say stranded, how, baby? Explain a little more.
Like legitimately drop you off somewhere and leave in their car while you at the place.
That's abuse. Sure, who's gonna leave somebody somewhere and not assuring that they gonna get back somewhere? That's a form of.
But is that physical or is it emotional?
Oh, damn, that's a good question. Yeah, my knowledge is that's disrespectful. Yes. Peace Love said it. That's damn disrespectful. To leave someone stranded, to me, that's kind of like a mental abuse. Because then you not physical, they didn't hit you, but mentally they left you stranded. So that's a mental abuse. Think about it. Because they just left you there, and you, I guess, mentally you would be somewhat damaged. You have to think about how you go get back. Now they done left you in this unfamiliar place. So would you guys call that mental? Yeah, that's like mental.
Okay.
What would you call it?
I honestly think that domestic violence is domestic violence. I really don't compartmentalize it the way that most people do.
Okay.
So I think it's all in the same.
But it's all kind of form. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, baby.
Well, no, I was just saying, but based on listening to your live yesterday versus your live today, I was curious to know, because that was one of the things that happened to me where I was left at a Smoothie King in an area that I didn't know. And because I was left there, I had to call an Uber. I ended up calling the Uber because the Smoothie King closed. Because I
go ahead. So that attacked you mentally.
I don't know that it was a mental attack. I just know that the Smoothie King was closed and them people working minimum wage and they ready to go home. And
go ahead, J Don. Go ahead. Because that's mental. No one put their hands on you at that particular time. They didn't put their hands on you at that particular time, but they did something that will mentally bother you. Because damn, I'm out here. I gotta think, where can I go? I'm stranded. So I think I would do that a little bit mental. Would y'all say somewhat controlling? Thank you so much, Trina B. She said it's mental because it's a controlling issue. So yeah, mentally.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was just curious to know the difference or what you thought that was. But like people do weird stuff for domestic violence. So even if people ain't hitting you, when people just leaving you without anywhere to go or not knowing what to do, then that's an issue.
Right. It is. It is. And you know what? I agree with you, Jay Dunn. That's an issue. And like I said, I don't minimize anyone's abuse because domestic abuse is domestic abuse. It doesn't matter who it happens between. So
Mm.
I don't minimize anyone's domestic abuse, but it's so many layers to this domestic abuse, you know, that we could talk about it for this whole month every day because people need to know that. And people need to validate people's feelings when they feel like they've been abused as well. You know, we can't minimize that. You have to validate their feelings. Perhaps they feel like they've been abused. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
she said emotional abuse, hoping to evoke fear or bring up feelings of childhood abandonment of some type or evoke power over someone. Okay. It is a lot of layers. It's lots of layers. And like I said, we could talk about this for the whole month, you guys, because it's so many layers to abuse. And I don't care. No one is exempt from abuse. It can happen to any one of us at any given time. And if we don't recognize red flags when we in a relationship, see, a child don't know the difference. But in adulthood, we know the difference. And if we can't recognize red flags, we will continue or we will get ourselves into an entanglement with a person who's an abuser. If you could recognize the red flags, then you can walk away. And you don't even have to engage in a relationship with them if you start in one because it's red flags.
Well,
It's
this is one other thing that I want to ask you. Because I have the reputation where I don't take accountability for myself.
okay.
But I do feel like I fight back through YouTube from what I went through. Just because I lived it in the physical presence. Like even whenever I was standing outside of that Smoothie King waiting on an Uber to come get me, it was homeless men coming through trying to beckon me. It was like drug addicts and stuff like that walking around while I'm out there waiting on the Uber because the Smoothie King closed. And I do feel like to a certain degree I can be emotionally abusive, but I don't think that I'm emotionally abusive inside of a situation. I do feel like I retaliate as far as emotional abuse because look at what you did to me. And there's so many people on here to be like, well, Jay Dunn, don't speak on this. Don't talk about this. Don't do this. And I'm like, well, my God, my life could have been taken from me while I'm out there waiting on the Uber in a place that I do not know.
That now that's true. That's a true. But um just from observation, and I always speak the truth, Jay Dunn, whether a person like not from what, I don't minimize what you feel. I don't minimize what you went through. It's just important as anyone else to me. But it may not be the case with other people. And yes, when you're in an abusive relationship, you know, you want people to know your story. I guess, and here gives you the opportunity to tell your story anytime you get ready. And but so I don't minimize what you went through. Like I said, I don't know. Have you ever gotten counseling for it? To be honest, some type of counseling?
Oh, absolutely. I've
Yeah.
gone a few times.
hmm Did they? Okay, so do you think that counseling helped you try to get
Yeah.
over this? Okay, it
hmm
did. It
Yeah.
did. So, okay.
I probably would be more of a demon, quote unquote, demon to people if I
Uh-huh.
didn't have counseling.
hmm Okay. If you didn't have counseling, you think you would be worse?
Of course. Well, I honestly don't think that I'm worse now. I don't think I'm worse. People think I'm worse.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only because you fight back the way that you can fight back. Like you would never walk me upside my head with a lamp or some bullshit and you
Mm-hmm.
think that I'm going to forget that you did that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a damn how long it took. No, if I had to go through going to the doctor and getting a mild concussion and all this kind of stuff, like in real
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
you will never think that you got away with that bullshit because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't put you in jail.
So
That's the
you so what basically I think what I'm gathering and when I hear you talk about it is that you don't want people to minimize your experience. Your portion, right? Don't minimize it because it's me and perhaps you don't care for me or something like that because it was real. It actually happened to me. Is that what
correct.
okay.
Yeah, correct. And my thing is, it's hard for me to empathize with others on here who never had empathy for me. Now,
Okay, well, okay, go ahead. The reason why I want to stop you right there, and I hate to
okay.
interject,
Uh-huh.
because outside of here, do you show empathy anywhere else?
Yes,
Oh, just not here.
absolutely. I
Okay,
love people.
okay. You love people. Is it hard for you to love?
No.
It's not hard for you to love. Okay.
Mm-mm.
So you love, and so do you know red flags of maybe abuse that you would not get engaged in a relationship? If you
I know
see
red.
something,
I'm able to, if you're asking me if I'm able to identify red flags, absolutely, yes.
thank you. Okay, okay. So you would know not to get, yeah, you would know not to get in any more relationships like that, right?
Mm, oh, of course. And that's the crazy thing, Mz.Teavalocity. It's been times where I done seen domestic abuse happening at the
Mhm.
gas station, and I will actually let my voice be known to let that man know that I see what the fuck he doing. Like I'm
Really?
that type of person. Yes.
Yeah, that's what's up
And
though.
that was before I had my own experience. I
Mhm.
had no idea about what it was like, nothing. But as far as the empathy question, if I see you doing dirty, you doing dirty. If I see that you doing dirty by a child and I see it, I'm gonna let you know. I'm
Mhm.
just not outspoken on YouTube. I'm
Mhm.
outspoken in my real life.
I would say if you see something, say something. You know, a lot of times though, JD, people don't do that. We're just not the same world that we used to live in. It's not the same world we used to live in before. If you see something like that, people will get involved and try to break up the fight. Now people just stand back and let women get beat on by men. I've seen it in the streets when you would think, and they quick to pull out their phones now, right? And record it
Mhm.
instead
Right.
of really because everybody is afraid to get involved. And you know, sometimes I want to say this too. When you're dealing with relationships, people don't like to get involved. You know why?
What?
Because you can tell me what's going on with you, right? I can empathize with you and we could talk about it, and I'm upset with your partner. You'll go right back to your partner that day, that night, maybe a couple of hours, and then I'm out. I'm left out looking like the fool for even involving myself in your relationship. So I think a lot of times people don't like to do that. You think that's safe to say that's why people don't interfere in other people's relationships sometimes?
Well, I would say that people don't do that in the real world, but
Mm-hmm.
people love to interfere in relationships on YouTube. Let's start there.
Oh,
But one thing that I will say is the
mm-hmm.
difference, what I feel is that even if these people decide to be back together after I done left them, I don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
don't know that they decided to get back right. I don't know what they
Yeah.
decided to. I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
if I see that you trying to put your
Mm-hmm.
hands on somebody and
Mm-hmm.
somebody is by themselves and is a woman
Mm-hmm.
by themselves, you know, even I've seen where a man has been come at a couple of times. Because I've lived in a few different big cities. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just be minding my business and I see some stuff. And people could call me nosy. I don't care if you want to call me
I
nosy.
don't blame you.
If I see it
Oh,
happening, I'm gonna be like, what's going on? I'm gonna roll my window down. And even if I feel like it might be so hostile where I
mhm.
cannot just insert myself,
Right.
I will try to make a joke to them
Yeah, you trying
and not
to say
joke not joke about the
mhm,
situation,
mhm.
but just come through and ask something bogus as hell that make them realize, hey, she see us, she see what we doing. And so that's kind of what I do. And I feel like a lot of people, instead, people want to be bystanders. But there is a real thing called the bystander effect, Mz.Teavalocity. If you know about the bystander effect, I learned about that when I was in college. And that really messed with me because I couldn't believe that Kitty Genovese had got killed in New York. And so many people saw her murder happen, and nobody contacted the police. And
that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
The bystander effect. Are you familiar with it?
No, I really haven't heard of that.
Oh, well, let me tell you, Mz.Teavalocity. So if you just type it up in YouTube, the bystander effect.
Okay, go ahead. I'll look it up.
The bystander effect is a lady named Kitty Genovese who got killed in the 50s or the 60s in New York. She got stabbed. And several people within New York watched her get stabbed, but nobody called.
Shucks.
Nobody called the police. Nobody called the police to help her. Nobody tried to call the police to save her life, and she ended up dying. And once she died, there was a whole court trial in which so many people ended up being brought into the trial about the fact that they didn't contact the police in a timely fashion, where so many people came out as witnesses. But how you going to come out as a witness after she died?
Yeah, that's great. I wonder why that happened. Like I said, I think now, JD, people just be afraid to get involved, They fear for their lives, where before you would never catch a men standing around watching another man beat on a woman. They would turn around, beat his behind. Now they may get up and go home together, but that man gonna take a butt whooping while he there. But nowadays people can see everything, and they so quick to video record it and do nothing about it. I don't understand the society now. It's hard to understand, isn't it?
It is. Back then, it was legitimately Mz.Teavalocity over, and I'm just estimating because I don't have the data in front of me. But it was like over 50 people within New York that saw from the windows. They heard her scream outside, and they looked out the window and saw the stabbing. People getting out of taxi cabs, watching her being stabbed. People doing all of this, and nobody called the cops. Even once she got stabbed and she was out there suffering, nobody came outside. And you want to know why?
No, yeah, I want to know why. Why wouldn't somebody call the cops, JD?
Because everybody else was waiting on the other person to call the cops.
Oh, yeah, but still, they could have had tons of calls. Wow, that's crazy.
They saw that somebody else saw it, and they didn't want to be involved. So because they don't want to be involved, then they're going to wait on the next person to call the cops. Meanwhile, nobody called the cops. The woman bled to death and died on the streets of New York. Her name is Kitty Genovese.
I'm going to have to look that up. That's kind of sad. Maybe I don't want to look. That's sad that we would stand by and allow somebody to die and not even call the proper authorities. You didn't have to go get in it. You didn't even have to try to stop it. At least just call the police. I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's called the bystander effect. That's what it's called. Like after that case with Kitty Genovese, they ended up making a whole terminology for it, psychology wise, and it's called the bystander effect. But it's really just like people seeing stuff happening and thinking that, oh, well, this person going to do it. I mean, how many times have we looked at these YouTube videos and saw something going wrong, and we thinking, oh, well, somebody else will report it. I ain't got to.
I guess I never thought of it that way, JD. I really haven't. Yeah, I guess we need to do our due diligence to just do the right thing and make the right calls at the right time, in any situation. Like, we had talked about the mandated reporters and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think we just have to do our due diligence, try to be better as citizens. To if you see something, report. And I'm not even talking about on here because I could care less about, but I'm just talking about in general,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much of that's going on, just what you said. And what I was talking about, a man will stand by, it'll be a group of men, and they'll let a man beat on this woman, and they'll never get involved. They'll never say anything, they'll record. It'll be two kids fighting. Just think about two kids fighting in the schoolyard, and no one ever breaks up the fight. Everybody
Right.
just stand. My granddaughter got into a fight. My granddaughter, she's a good kid. She got into a fight, and I don't even know, because they showed me the video. I don't even know how the fight broke up because I never saw anyone break up the fight. All I know, the fight was over, but they were there recording the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever stopped it. They was just there recording. Several people was recording it. And it dawned on me, JD, because I said, I don't even know how the fight stopped. I never saw anyone break up the fight. Maybe perhaps some adults came and they put their phones away. But I did see the actual fight, how it
Mm-hmm.
started, and from what I could perceive, how it ended. But I never saw anyone get involved to even break the fights up. So nowadays it happens everywhere, in the schoolyard, in the streets, in your apartment buildings, just everywhere. At your jobs, you can just beat on folks and no one will ever say or do anything. But I would never think that it would be 50 people and no one ever pick up a phone to call the police. That's crazy as hell. It's unbelievable. But I
Right.
believe you.
But this happened in like the 50s or the 60s, Miss.T. Velocity.
Okay. The
Yeah, yeah,
50s or
this
the
happened.
60s.
Yeah. This happened, I won't say back in the day, but back in the day.
I know what you're
But
saying.
yeah, but one other thing too that I will say, with the people that bring out the cell phones to record it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody ends up dying, Miss.T. Velocity, and the police is asking for a tip, guess what? Even though you done recorded it on your cell phone, just so that you could get clout online, if somebody dies, do you know that they won't send the video over for the tip? They won't do that.
That's strange. Cause hold on, JD. Hold on 1 minute. Keep going. I'm just gonna step away for a minute.
Okay. Well, no, I'm just saying people are quick to take out the cell phones to
God.
record a situation. But then if somebody winds up dead, then when the police are trying to get a tip, they don't send over the information because they think that they are snitching if they send over the information. Meanwhile, you were recorded to get YouTube fame or World Star Hip Hop
Hip hop.
fame or that type of fame. But then if somebody is actually dead and you got it on your cell phone and you see that the person has died, many of the people that record crazy ass stuff like this
Mm-hmm.
don't even be willing to bring over the evidence to the
That's
police.
crazy. Now that's crazy, JD. I think that's crazy because you don't have to really get involved, but to a certain extent, just hand the evidence over. You can put the evidence, some pictures and everything or whatever in the envelope, and just drop it off at the police station. You don't even have to go in there. You could get the recordings and send it in. But you're right. We have just become a society that we just don't care anymore. We just don't value people's lives the way we should. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we don't respond the way that we should respond, because we just don't place much value on people's lives anymore. And they do a lot of this stuff, like you said, they'll put it on World Star, what they call it? World Star Hip Hop, right? What they call it?
Yeah, World Star Hip Hop.
Yeah. They'll do something like that before they turn it over to the proper authorities to get a case solved. And there's so many unsolved cases that I know people have seen something, but they won't say a thing. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't imagine. They just won't say a thing. So a lot of times the crimes go unsolved because people are afraid to say something. People are really just afraid to get involved because this world is much more crazier than it was years ago, or perhaps maybe it's more prevalent now because we see it all over the place, like social media and stuff. It may be the same, but I think these people now just don't care. They just don't care. and you can't make people care.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. But
Yeah,
at the same time, I think that the fact that people don't care, that's how we contribute to the world and society being desensitized.
exactly.
We cannot be running around here talking about desensitization
Yeah.
if you're not even doing anything. And like that's the thing. I just have to bring myself back to YouTube. People think I'm desensitized out of this world.
Hmm.
I promise you, ma'am, I am not.
I
I
don't
care
think
about
so.
people. I care about people. But my thing is when I see myself at somewhat of a crisis to me, and people are so desensitized that they don't think my crisis matters, then I'm just like, well, why should yours matter? But now in the real world and in the real life, if I see some mess going on, I'm going to say something. That's why people make fun of me on here because I will call the cops. I call the cops in my real life.
Do you? Yeah. Well, you should. You should call the proper authorities. You know another thing too, JD, when we talk about calling the cops, because the cops aren't the same as they used to be either. You can't even trust those mofos. Not all. Let me back that up. I hate to generalize that because they supposed to be doing the right thing to serve and protect, but they're not. They're not. And so I think people hesitate to call them in some cases because they don't do anything. A couple of weeks ago, maybe Diva, what was it, a month ago? I'm going to tell you a story. Was it a month ago, Diva, with this story? You could just help me out. Hey, TC, a month ago, my friend, a good friend of mine's brother got killed
Uh-huh.
in the middle of the street in New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right at gunpoint, blew his head up, stood right over him, like what they call an execution style, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He laid there for hours. The police never came. Hours. I couldn't figure out when I kept saying, Diva, did the police come? And we called my girl. No, not yet. His body is still there. You know why? You know, the only thing I could think of, the reason why that took place is because perhaps the involvement he had, and I don't know because we don't know what the reason, what was the reason for them doing that. But to have the police not respond in 2 hours, Diva, was it 2 hours? 2 hours. That boy body laid in the street. His family was there, uncovered. Was it uncovered or covered? It doesn't matter. But the police never responded because, again, they don't think our lives are valuable, especially when it comes to us. They don't think our lives are valuable, and because we become desensitized, just like you said, that no one is caring anymore. How can you let someone stay out for 2 hours with their head blown open?
Well, but that's the thing, Mz.Teavalocity. That goes back to the bystander effect. So many people probably passed that and thought
Yeah.
that somebody already called.
No, you know what? They did. They made the call to the police. I'm saying they made the call. The police didn't respond.
Oh, so it took the police that long time. Okay, okay.
The police didn't. They made the call to the police, right, Queen? The police didn't respond because, again, even they are becoming desensitized when stuff happens to us. That they don't even respond. How can you leave someone, family member, someone loved one, someone, period, a human being, even though the guy was dead? How can you leave him laying in the street for 2 hours?
And
And
I agree.
it's
I agree with that, Mz.Teavalocity. But one other thing too that I will mention, I watched a study about this type of thing.
mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when it comes to us, it depends on how we are dressed. If you happen to be shot up in the streets and you have on a full suit, a button down tie, and you look like somebody important,
Wow,
you might react quicker.
that's
But
deep.
if you just in your regular casual clothes
Mm-hmm.
and you end up getting shot, most of the time they won't even think nothing of you because okay, who else is worried about you? And that's the sad part about it.
That's deep. That's deep, but that could be very well true. That could be very well true. And then, I wonder, I also wonder, JD, if too, because of the lifestyle that I think he was involved in, see, they don't care. To them, it's just another one off the street, if you know what I mean. I just don't want to use just another nigga off the street, really. They don't care, And
Yeah,
that's
that is true. The presentation is so important, which I think is crazy, because when white people get killed, it's not really, they don't really care too much about how they are presented. But with black people, they do. If you look like you are worth something and you look like you are a business person and things like that, they might be quicker to respond. But if you just got on the hoodie, they gonna assume that you just robbed somebody. So why do they have to rush?
Man, that's hard to swallow though. But I believe that's facts. That could be true. That's hard to swallow, JD. I just think when it comes to our community, they just don't care anymore, because some of the communities live a different way. And everyone life has value to it. I don't give a damn who you are. Every human being is valuable to someone, maybe not to me, but to someone. And when we start overlooking that and they're not responding to our calls, we have a real problem on our hand. Just because of the community, the demographic area we live in, you choose not to answer a call. That's a real problem, especially for the proper authority figures to do that. That's a real problem to me. But I believe that happens. And you said you read that in the research or a study? What you
Yeah, it's a study that I saw, and they actually did it. It's a TV show. What would you do? They took that study. Yeah, they took that study and they actually replicated it on television.
Oh, I watched What Would You Do?
You know where they say, what would you do if XYZ? And they did it. They did the study, and we watch people just walk over black people that needed some help, versus if the man was up in a suit, maybe 15 minutes ago by with people walking over him, but eventually somebody will call. But then
what? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
But when you watch What Would You Do, the people who really get involved and react much quicker to certain circumstances, whatever they doing, is Caucasian people. Caucasian people act much quicker than we do. In that case of What Would You Do, they respond to a situation much faster than we do. You know how they do them in the diners and stuff? And the parent is over there, probably saying something to the child. Black people will sit there and mind their business, but them Caucasian people will say, hey, don't say that. That's abuse. That's so-and-so. If you do that again, I'm going to call the police. They will respond. We don't respond. We just sit there and continue to eat and mind our business. But they are much quicker to respond to a situation than we are. Now, I have noticed that by watching What Would You Do?
And yeah, that's whenever I first saw it, because they initially talked about that study, because anytime you're watching What Would You Do, they tell you about the study that they came across it from and why they conducting the experiment, the social experiment. And so I looked up the stuff and I'm like, oh my God. But I watched it happen on there, and I can believe that. So yeah, there is very much an issue. Not only do we have being black against us, but we have to be dressed a certain way in order to get help. Not only do we have black against us, but even if we are having a crime committed against us, we have to appear a certain way in order for people to think that the crime is serious. So even going back to what you have your original title of domestic violence, it can be domestic violence going on against us. But if they look at us and they think that we are hood rats anyway, are they really going to look at it as domestic violence, or are they going to look at it as it's something that we do every day?
You know what? You absolutely right. That's a good point. You absolutely right. Are they gonna look at it like domestic violence? Because I don't know if you noticed that in most states, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone, if you hear what I'm about to say. Oh, is my camera coming across blurry, you guys? Because I'm watching me on TV and I'm coming across really. Oh, my Wi-Fi is struggling. You look good, but my Wi-Fi is struggling. I could see it on the camera, but yeah, I could see it. Okay, it may get better now. I can see the signals being low. But what was I saying, JD? What was I saying? Because I could see me and I was looked real blurry. What was I saying?
Well, I was
That
talking
might
about
be true.
I
That
was
might
talking
be.
about the domestic violence, and if they think you are a hood rat, they think that that's something normal.
Oh, because check this out. If I'm not mistaken, now they don't answer. The police don't respond to a lot of domestic abuse calls. Did you know that? Because they say it's domestic, and I think a study has shown that most time when they answer the calls, whoever made the call is not willing to tell what happened, and they don't want to send a person to jail, or they don't want anything to happen to them legally, so they won't say exactly what happened, so they stopped answering a lot of domestic calls in a lot of states. Did you
Mm.
know that?
I didn't know that, but I
Yeah,
could believe it.
yeah, it's true.
Fortunately for me,
Yeah.
I've only dealt with domestic violence one time. Well, in one situation, in one
Mhm.
relationship only. I've
Mhm.
never had to deal with it before, so I really didn't even try
Yeah,
to pay that much attention to it.
yeah,
But I do notice whatever I see around me. And I mean, at the end of the day, you just have a voice. Just say something.
yeah,
And sometimes I say, I mean, I got my car right here. I mean, two people is better than one. If you're gonna let somebody try to fight somebody by themselves, I ain't trying
mhm.
to fight them now. I ain't trying to, but I'm letting you know I see what you're doing now. I see you.
I
Now
ain't
sit
coming.
down.
I see you, and I'm about to call the police, and you gonna keep on rolling, right?
No,
You gonna keep on
well,
rolling,
you know,
right?
I might get out of Dodge now, Mz.Teavalocity, but
That's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
make
saying.
sure that I can see. I'm gonna make sure I can see, or either I'll go back up in the store and tell them, look here, they out here doing the most. I'm about to call
Uh-huh.
the police on them. Y'all better go out here and see. Because if it's not my establishment, it's not for me to put my life on the line for it. But
Right.
I'm gonna make sure I bring attention to it.
To it, yeah. Well, that's the only thing we could do. I don't say if you see two men fighting or two women, or whatever, you see some. I don't say to insert yourself and to go up there and try to break it up, because they'll turn around, both of them, and start kicking your butt. See, because in a lot of cases like this, remember we talking about domestic abuse, and unfortunately it becomes normal to the victim, so they're going to defend the abuser, because it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a normal thing to them. Is that cycle, is a
Mm-hmm.
cycle, is a four-part cycle, in abuse. And so they will turn around and kick your butt together, and then
Right.
he'll continue to kick her butt, or she'll continue to kick her butt, or she, you know what I mean? Whatever
Uh-huh.
domestic abuse, whatever abuse is going on. So a lot of times you tend to stay out of them, but I'm almost sure that that is taking place now. That they are not answering a lot of calls about domestic abuse unless they ask you. You know how they ask you? Does the person have a gun? Does the person have a knife? Is anybody shot? Anybody bleeding? And if you say no, they take their time and come.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't even come.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that crazy?
No, it is crazy, and that's true. And I'm just gonna leave y'all with this. Anytime that you see something and you know you saw it,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to sleep with that at night. Now, people think that me cussing somebody out or dragging a child or
Mhm.
whatever on YouTube means that I can't sleep at night. Oh, I can sleep because I know they doing
Mhm.
well sleeping over there. I
Mhm.
know everything going on. They are sleeping over there. Even though people want to feel outraged about the words that come out of my mouth, they are fine. But when you come through in a real situation where you actually see something and you think that you could have helped, but you didn't. And my thing is, I'm steadily putting myself in other people's shoes because I know dang well if it was me, I would have want somebody to help me.
Yeah.
The thing is, you cannot put yourself in a position where you want people to help you, but you don't help the next person. That's crazy to me.
That's true, JD. That's very much true. If you see something, say something. Because, even in this case, when I was telling you about my sister, I had offered her to come live with me and she declined to because she wanted to bring her husband. Maybe at one point, I don't know, when everything was happening, I thought, wow, maybe I could have done more. I could have, but not really. I couldn't have done no more than what I did.
Correct.
But you could feel some kind of way if something happens to someone in a DV relationship and you know about it and you don't say something, then that could be blood on your hands as well. I would have a hard time sleeping knowing that I didn't say something and the result was someone got killed and I didn't say what was going on to someone, like my conscience would bother me and I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Right. And I mean, ultimately, Mz.Teavalocity, that's the least that you can do.
Exactly.
It's the least that you can do.
That's the least you could do. That's right. That's the least you can do. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right.
And I'm a firm believer that we all have numbered days.
Oh, yeah.
Why are you scared that your number is going to be pushed up because you said something? Why?
Because good point. Go ahead. I'll elaborate on it after you leave. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I grew up in the church and I believe that everybody has a number. There is no way that I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'm worried about my number coming soon. And no, I already had my number. So even if I see some stuff, even if it could put me in a bad situation, at least I knew what I thought was going to help me sleep at night. I'm not worried about what might happen to me or what somebody might do to me or anything like that because the days were numbered already. It's too many times people look the other way because they too busy worried about, oh, well, I don't want this to happen to me. I ain't trying to have this. Absolutely not.
Great point, because I said that. I don't want to say what I said it about, but my children was getting on me because I didn't want to take the old jab, right? Make a long story short. So you can die, you could do this. I said, let me tell you something. However I'm deemed to die, whenever I'm deemed to die, I'm going to die just like that. I cannot worry about it. Just sometimes I always tell them, you can't, this conversation go on somewhere else, but you are absolutely right. Let me say it like that. And when the spirit tells you to do something, you do the right thing, no matter what it may cost you, JD. And we just have to live by that code. We have to live by that. If you see something, say something. You don't have to go insert yourself in it. Like you said, you could just make a simple phone call. And the best time when you're making a phone call to those people and they ask you that question, anybody has any G's? Yep, they bullets flying everywhere. They'll get there much quicker. I'm just telling the truth. And if you say no, they just fighting, well, he beating on her, they're gonna take their time, or she beating on him, or whatever. They'll take their time.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your discussion, but I just wanted to come up here. I was actually waiting on my own dinner to get finished while I was listening to you, and so I had clicked the link.
But that was a valid question, JD. I'm glad you came up to join me. It just stumped me, and because I'm not sure what type of abuse would I label that? Or I think that would be more of a mental, to me, an emotional abuse versus physical, because physical contact was made, but emotionally you played with my mind. But you could have put me into a physical, into a physical help me out.
A physical situation.
Somebody could came there and they could have done anything to you, but I would deem it as, just from my knowledge, that it would be probably just an emotional. It played on your mind. How would you leave me out here like that? anything could have happened. What if I didn't have any money and I'm stuck out here? You mucking with my mom. Hey,
Mm.
Miss Goody Two Shoes, how are you? I don't mind you coming up at all, JD. One thing I do want you to know that I don't minimize any abuse, baby, any at all, whether it happens between parents and children, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, whatever. Domestic abuse is very serious. I don't take it lightly. I don't want anyone to have to experience it. And it's a conversation that could be had many times over until we get the picture. You never know when you're helping someone. So I'm glad that you came up here and joined me.
Okay. Well, thank
I
you for having
appreciate
me,
you, baby.
Mz.Teavalocity. I'm gonna
I
actually
appreciate
drop
you.
down. I'm gonna drop down now, but thank you for having me up here and for us to have the discussion. But don't forget to look up the bystander effect when
Yes,
you
I
get.
am. I am
Okay.
because I believe you, but I just can't believe that happened. But then when you was telling me that one person probably thought the other person called the other person, I can see it happening, but it's very unfortunate. And I'm glad you hit me to that, and I'll take a look at it when I get off this live. But I appreciate you very much for coming to join me tonight.
Okay. You're welcome. You have a good evening.
You too, baby. I got
Okay.
off camera. Go ahead.
All
You go.
right. Bye.
Bye bye, baby. I got off camera, you guys, because it looks like my Wi-Fi is struggling. And when I'm looking at myself on the television, I can see the blurriness. And I can see my Wi-Fi signal showing me weakness. So it's very blurry. So that's why I came off of camera. But I appreciate JD for coming up, sharing her story. And like I said, I don't minimize her story no more. No, let me make sure I'm trying to make sure I say the right thing. I'm not minimizing her being a victim. You know, I don't minimize that. I don't care what people say, what people do. If she suffered some type of abuse, she did. And I'm not minimizing it. I always have empathy for any victim. It doesn't matter who it is. Like I said, I read today, I was trying to do some research, and I really have to learn to edit because I had some good slides and stuff to show you guys. I wanted to go through the cycles and stuff, but hopefully I'll get it together. But the research said that you have more domestic violence, if I'm not mistaken. Statistically, I don't know the numbers amongst homosexual relationships, and more homosexual males relationship than homosexual female relationships. But the numbers was pretty high. So we can't minimize anyone's domestic violence, no matter what type of partnership relationship they in, is domestic violence. And that's what I respect, that every human being should be respected, no matter who they are, where they are, where they from, what walk of life. We should have respect for everyone's feeling, because we don't know people's feelings. I can't say how you feel. You only telling me, but I'm not inside of you to really say how something affected you and how it made you feel. And I hate when people do that, because I can't tell you how you feel. Okay? So with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me. Remember, emotional abuse is just as bad or can be worse than physical abuse. And the reason being is because emotional abuse will break you down so bad that you will feel invaluable, and you will feel invaluable and unworthy for years to come, unless you seek some type of therapy and counseling. You will feel that way. It can destroy your whole life when you feel worthless. It destroys your whole life. It puts a stop to your life. When someone tell you you're not shit, you're not worth it, and you begin to believe that, then you have no reason to live. You get where I'm going? They can beat you down just that bad. Don't become a victim. Know the red flags. If somebody called you a B once, let that be it. If they called you a B, let that be. Don't give them another opportunity. And I know that sounds crazy, but once you allow people to disrespect you or abuse you, do certain things to you, you are giving them permission basically to do it. If you don't respond a certain way, if you don't react a certain way, if I allow you to call me a bitch over and over again, to me, I'm giving you permission. Don't ever give anyone permission to make you feel any kind of way less than who you are. Life situations and experience will shape you. Like I said, I thank God for every bump and bruise that I have received in my life journey, because it made me a stronger person. And now I know red flags. You see red flags. So I will make sure that I wouldn't get involved with a person who would be emotionally or physically abusive to me. Not right away, all the time you see red flags, but most of the time, if you're in a relationship, you'll start seeing them. And you yourself should back away from the relationship, because it's someone out there that will make you feel just as special and love you the way you want to be loved. We're not meant to be abused. My signal is going out again. God dang it. I can see it on the camera. I'm looking at myself. You're not meant to be abused. You don't have to become a victim. If you in a relationship, you hear this live, and you in a relationship, I have a description in my description box 24/7. You can call Domestic Violence Hotline. You could call that Domestic Violence Hotline. So don't hesitate to do that. Like JD said, if you see something, say something. All of us are what they call mandated reporters. With that being said, I'm gonna get ready. Any questions? Thanks for joining me. Make sure you hit that like button. Like I said, this topic could go on and on and on the whole month. But don't forget, this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Make sure you get your tatas, women and men. There's men who suffer from who has breast cancer as well. But make sure you get your examination done. Do a self-examination and make sure you get your mammogram. And listen. Don't think for 1 minute, because you don't have any insurance, that you can't get a mammogram. There are free clinics, and there are services and programs that provide free mammogram to all women. It doesn't matter your income. You can get a free mammogram once a year from several places, and I guess I need to look those places up and list them. But thank you all for joining me. With that being said, I think I'm going to get ready to get out here. I was here for an hour or more. I enjoyed JD. Thank you, Queen Diva, as usual. BB Nice. Next week I have a show, a special interview that I think is going to be very interesting. So I hope you all will join me. I don't want to say who the interview is with right now and what the interview is about, but it's going to be an interesting one. Please make sure that you hit that notification bell so you won't miss my lives. With that being said, if you see a king's crown crooked, help him straighten it up. If you see a queen's crown crooked, help her straighten it up. Speak life and wisdom into your princes and your princesses. They are our joint heirs. They are our future. Make sure we are building legacy to leave them. They don't need the struggles and the woes that some of us have incurred. Please make sure. As always, be a blessing and never a bother. It's a simple hello. Can I buy that cup of coffee? You look beautiful. Hey, I'll grab those groceries. Here's a couple of dollars for you to enjoy your lunch today. I love your smile. It doesn't take much to bless someone. So make sure we are practicing to being a blessing to someone. And again, if you see something, say something. Until I see you all again, Have a blessed and peace out of here.